Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Nick.
This is Rob.
And this is Bill.
And welcome to Keeping Up with the Kardashians, where we don't talk about Kim. We don't talk about, because she's a Kardashian.
Oh, that's true.
We don't talk about, what's the other, Kendall?
Bruno.
And when you said that, I was like, we don't talk about Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno.
Our Fight Club.
We talk about pop culture. We talk about Christmas movies. Today, we're going to be talking a lot about Christmas movies, folks.
And which Die Hard is not.
What? Shut your mouth.
I will say what I want. This is America. Sorry, that was a little loud.
No, it's fine. Here's the nice thing about these microphones. You can yell in them, and it adjusts your voice, the podcaster, the roadcaster. So you scream, it normalizes it. So you can go, ah! And it'll just sound like, ah.
But you also backed up from the mic when you did that.
All right. So anyways, today is a very special Keeping Up with the Kardashians episode because we have a very special guest that we got to interview today by the wonders of Zoom. Zoom. We got to interview Mark Altman today. Yay! Mark Altman, you may know his name, Star Trek fans. And if you don't, I'm going to tell you what he does. He does all kinds of things. So first of all, he did Free Enterprise back in the day. That was one of his first film credits that he had. He has also done Star Trek, the 50th. I'm going to make sure I get it exactly
50-year mission.
50-year mission.
Complete and uncensored oral history.
Oral history. He's also done So Say We All. Battlestar Galactica.
Of course you're going to say that.
Yeah, of course. And right now he's working on it. He's a showrunner and executive producer of an upcoming adaptation of a best-selling book series, Deathlands. And he's been a showrunner on other shows like Pandora. He's been a co-executive producer on The Librarians, Agent X, Castle, and Necessary Roughness. So he's
written comic books. He's written books.
But you might famously know him best from Inglorious Treksperts. He is one of the 3 hosts of Inglorious Treksperts, and Mark agreed to come on our humble little podcast and talk Star Trek with us, but more importantly, talk a documentary movie that he released that is called The Best Christmas Movies Ever.
Yes.
And it aired last year on the CW, but it's going to air again this year. And it was released on physical media, Blu-ray, DVD.
And you can get it streaming.
You can get it streaming.
The most surprising thing for me out of this interview was that I didn't realize the CW was still a thing. I thought they went away years ago.
You know, times change, but
hey, we surprise people on this podcast.
It surprised me.
Yep.
I learned something new.
Yeah. So anyways, we get to interview Mark, and we're going to turn it over to Mark here in a second. And we'll come back at the end to bump you out and just...
We'll do what at the end? Oh.
Bump you out. Bump. Okay. So shall we head over to the interview
Let's go to the interview.
All right. Heading over to the interview now. We'll be back in a few. Well, everyone, we have a special guest with us today. It is Mark Altman. You may know him from one of your favorite podcasts out there, Inglorious Treksperts, where he's been on for 5 years. But if you didn't know, he's also a television and movie producer. And right now he's working on a book series, Deathlands, to be adapted to, I believe, TV. Correct, Mark?
Yeah, TV series, yeah.
He's adapting that to TV, but he's also done other things. He's been executive producer on The Librarians, Agent X, Castle, Necessary Roughness, and of course, Free Enterprise was one of your big breakout writing credits back in the day, correct?
Yeah, that was the big one. That was the big thing. I went from journalism, movies, and TV.
Yeah.
As the writer and producer of Free Enterprise, and of course, it was the perfect transitional way into the industry because it was a chance to work with the mighty Bill Shatner.
Yeah.
Great cast, Phil Lamar and Eric McCormick, but obviously, doing your first movie with Billiam.
I love it.
So early. With William Shatner was just a remarkable experience.
Yeah.
I always say it's about 2 messed up Star Trek fans who meet their idol and find out he's more messed up than they are, and of course that's sort of what happened in real life. Like we became friends with him in the movie, and we became friends with him in real life, and it's just an extraordinary experience on and off the screen.
Yeah, that's pretty cool how that can work out, and that's even worked out even with just people that we've interviewed over the years. We've become friends with them, and that's cool how that naturally develops, and it starts off as a work relationship and then it becomes something more. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, but just don't trust those Cardassians.
No, not at all.
No, we don't. What was it like transitioning from a more journalistic role that you were doing and then going into film and going like, was there a big transition adjusting to that, or did you find the mediums
Not
kind of matched up?
really, because I was very lucky that my journalism career was. I mean, I wrote about a lot of things, but largely entertainment journalism.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like my film school in a sense.
Yeah.
Covering for as many years, particularly, I mean, we'll use Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, those shows as an example. Back in the day when I was covering that stuff for Cinefantastic in remarkable depth, I was sort of getting an education because it was a different time where you didn't really have like the internet. So the publicists were very helpful. Mm-hmm. And it got to the point where I was spending so much time on set and so much time interviewing people that they're like, I have to go back to the office. I'm just going to leave you here at Paramount. You talk, everyone knows you, you just do your thing. And if you need anything, call me. Right. So, I mean, I would have the run of the place and then, or I go sit down with Michael Pillar or Jerry Taylor or Rick Berg for, hours.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't competing with, 9,000 other people, and nobody really took the genre very seriously. So I was one of the few people that actually took it seriously. Right. So, I mean, that I always say was like my film school. I'm very grateful that they were so indulgent of some young, putz like myself at the time, and really learned so much about the industry, so that by the time I did my first movie, I pretty much knew what the hell I was doing.
Right.
And being on a Star Trek set,
although I would say in retrospect there are a lot of things I would change, knowing what I do now, what I would have applied back then.
Yeah, benefit of hindsight, right? Obviously.
And being on a Star Trek set too, to see that and kind of go over to Free Enterprise, that had to be, even though you weren't involved in the actual production process, but to see it all kind of happen around you since you had your free run of it, that had to be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about, first of all, those sets are just, particularly Deep Space Nine, were spectacular because, they were the first like 2-level sets for a TV series. The Next Generation sets, also, just like the first time I was ever on them was the first year of the show. I was coming to do a set visit from college. It was weird. I was editor of the school paper, got this thing from Paramount, this press release, and it was like 40 ways to cover. We suggest you cover the new syndicated series Star Trek. Because remember, no one cared.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Nobody knew it was first run syndication. We cared. The Star Trek fans cared, but no one outside the fandom. So like number 35 was come to a set visit. And I thought, well, that sounds nice. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
So I called up and I said, I want to do a set visit. And they said, well, great. We'd like to have you. And I'm like, oh, this is easy. So I said, I'd like to bring my photographer, my college roommate. And, so and then my best friend from home, I said, and the three of us sort of trekked out to Los Angeles. This is back in 87.
Yeah.
And, we were on the set of Too Short a Season, and it was remarkable. I just remember, and it was funny. Only in retrospect, I realized the person who gave us the tour when we arrived was Mike Akuda, who is now a good friend. But he gave us the tour of the sets and was telling us about everything. And at the end, they said, no one sits in the captain's chair, only Patrick.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. So we start to walk away, and my freaking college roommate sits down in the captain's chair.
No. Yeah, and he does.
Get the fuck over there. And he gets up, and he gets out of the captain's chair, and we walk away, and I'm like, I hate you. and to this day, he always is like, I sat in the captain's chair. And it's like, I've never, even at the many, many times I've been back, and obviously it's not a hard and fast rule that nobody's, I've never sat in the captain's chair because that always stuck with me. And he's always lorded that over me that, it's crazy. So that time was really special because I hadn't really been on any movie sets or anything. I was still very young, and it was really just a remarkable experience because, of course, it was tied up in all that nostalgia too, because we were all so incredulous that Star Trek was coming back. So, this is to be on the set of a new Star Trek series, and as it was coming back to television. And at that point, when we were there, the only things that had aired were Encounter Farpoint and Naked Now.
Yeah.
So the cast was so nervous
Oh,
because they didn't know what was gonna. I've listened to those tapes for different projects. I mean, I can't listen to my voice from back then, but it's so interesting to hear how nervous they were. Like, are people going to embrace the show, and is it going to last? And some of them, were like, were more willing to admit they were huge Star Trek fans back then than they would later. Like, oh, I didn't know much about Star Trek. It's like,
yeah.
Mark,
sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to ask, what was the media reception for Next Generation back then when it first came out? Because I remember it first came out. You were maybe a few years older than me. I was my first year of high school when it came out, and I remember just loving it. Look back on it now, I can't stand those first 2 seasons.
Right.
But how did the media react to Star Trek?
Well, I felt largely, the media only really paid attention to Farpoint.
Yeah.
And, if I remember correctly, most of the mainstream reviews were pretty positive, and they were kind of like, oh, Star Trek has returned and it's going to live long and prosper for many years more, if this is any indication, that kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
Those who were fans, I think, throughout first season really were disappointed.
Yeah.
Because you had Naked Now, which was just like a remake of Naked Time. And then you had a really bunch of other very derivative episodes, and it was really finding its mojo. So it wasn't until I think Heart of Glory and Where No One Had Gone Before, where people where it was even like sort of watchable.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it was sort of like, oh, they're glimmers, right?
Yeah, there
and
were
then,
for sure.
And then like Big Goodbye hit, and it was like, oh, okay, this is not terrible. This is really good.
Yeah.
And then there were a couple of other episodes that first season, and then they were sort of toying with serialization because like Coming of Age had like the beginning of the conspiracy plot.
Yep.
And so there, we did an episode on the podcast, I don't know, a couple years ago. We said, it was, I don't remember what it's called. It was something like, is season 1 as bad as you remember, or season 2 as bad?
It is.
And it's not as bad as you remember, but it's bad. Right.
Yeah.
But there are moments, every season, even the worst seasons usually have moments. Like season 2 has Measure of a Man. It has Q Who. So, I mean, they're special episodes, and season 1 less so, but there's still like things about it that are worth noting. That's why when people say, oh, just start with the 3rd season, I think is wrong. Everyone should suffer the way we suffer.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But,
well, I've suffered enough.
Missing moments.
When I rewatch it, I skip. I've suffered enough. When I rewatch it, I skip the first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I've seen them enough.
Well, I think there's something to it though, where you can see like the evolution of the writing and the producing and the actors and the characters getting more like Patrick Stewart becoming Picard was a kind of a fun watch to go from season 1 to where we're at now. We're entering season 6, and it's a fun to watch to see him evolve, and especially during the first 3 seasons, really, and how he changed when the writing changed too.
Right. Well, and the writers finding their groove too. Yeah.
I like to watch the evolution of Marina Sirtis's accent.
Oh yeah.
That to me is really the fun part of that first season. How it goes from that heavy thing that she's doing to when she finally just gives up on the accent.
Which is a good call on her part. A really good call on her part.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
that was pretty. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, to answer, a long way of answering that question was, by the time I was making movies, I'd kind of ingested all this information about the process over the course of covering. And it wasn't just Star Trek, but Star Trek was a big part of it.
Right. Well, one of my passions, and I look into your writing credits and I see something that really strikes my passion. This is a Star Trek podcast first and foremost, but whenever I have a chance to talk Battlestar Galactica, I talk Battlestar. And I am one of those people, though. I am unfortunately one of those people who I've seen the original series and it never did it for me. I am a reboot guy all the way for that, the reimagining of it. Where do you fall along those lines? Are you more of an original, or do you like the reimagining better?
No, it's funny. I love both shows for completely different reasons. I mean, clearly the Ron Moore series is the better series, just in terms of writing.
Yeah.
But I grew up on the original series, and there's so much I love about the production values of it. I love, most of the cast. but you certainly couldn't argue the writing is superior in any way. It was interesting because when I did the book with Ed, So Say We All, which was the oral history of Battlestar Galactica,
Mm-hmm.
it's a book that covers the original, it covers Galactica 1980, and it covers the new series.
Mm-hmm.
And we found it the reaction was incredibly polarized because people in the new show don't really like the original show, and
Mm-hmm.
people who are fans of the original show hate the reboot. Not everyone, but so they were all like, "Oh, this should have been two different books because it's not right that they're all both." But I thought that was crazy, and in fact, one of the most fun things to write in that was a series I absolutely loathed, which is Galactica 1980.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember it was the only time this ever happened. I wrote the chapter. I did that chapter, not on Galactica 1980, and it was very perfunctory. Mm-hmm. And I read it, and I said, you know what? No one's ever going to cover this crappy series again. So this needs to be the definitive telling of the Galactica 1980 story. So I literally not threw it out, but and I went and did a whole bunch more interviews and started from scratch and wrote it. And it's like one of my favorite things I ever did in any of these books, because it's just so crazy and insane and ridiculous. The whole making of Galactica 1980. So I was really happy with the way that turned out. But yeah, how can anyone not love the new Galactica? It's funny because I remember when Ron told me when he read it, he said, yeah, I just skipped to the stuff on my series. And he said, but I really enjoyed it. So then I went back and read the original. And that was so good that I read the Galactica 1980. I ended up reading the whole book.
That's great.
There you go. And it's so funny too, because when I watched a lot of Star Trek episodes that Ronald D. Moore did, and D Space Nine episodes, TNG episodes, and then I watch a lot of the Galactica episodes, it feels like they could easily change over, right? You could easily have those Galactica episodes be Star Trek episodes and vice versa. And it's so incredible because the captains couldn't be, to me, more diametrically opposed, yet also the same, right?
No, but they're both very moral and they're very powerful leaders with the sense of ethics and go figure.
Yeah.
And the thing that's interesting is because his whole approach was forged in his experience doing Next Gen and Deep Space Nine and not doing Voyager, that you see all those influences on him. One of the most interesting things to me is to compare when you look at the resolution in I, Borg, where Picard, is convinced by Guinan not to destroy the Borg, even though she has a way to wipe them out. And then you look at the Galactica, where it's basically the same plot.
Yeah.
I forget the title, but they have an opportunity to wipe out the Cylons by infecting them with this virus. And Adama and the very moral Mary McDonnell is going to be like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, kill them all.
It's only because it's the Deus Ex Machina that it doesn't happen.
Right.
But they're like all in on like wiping out the Cylons, and that to me shows the difference between Star Trek and Galactica, like in a nutshell, the difference and how Ron got to do what he wanted rather than kind of the Next Generation, Roddenberry box.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, and I loved Voyager. That was when I grew up watching in my late teens, actually, for me. And I loved it. But then I remember being dissatisfied because I'm like, you know what? I thought this was going to be harder for them. They should have struggled. Their ship should have been beat up. And then I saw Battlestar Galactica and I'm like, yes, that's everything Star Trek Voyager should have been to an extent. Not as dark, right? Because that's the thing you love about Star Trek is it's enlightened humanity, and Deep Space or Battlestar Galactica is very much like, the big speech that he gives at one of them is like, we're all tribes, we're gangs, we're not a human civilization, we're just fighting for survival. So I really loved that part of Battlestar, how they embraced the ragtag nature of it. And Voyager,
that's why when people say to me, what if Ron Moore had run Voyager and or his vision for Voyager had been the prevailing, he had won rather than got forced out when he came over from Deep Space Nine. I'm like, you know what it was. You watched Galactica. You don't need to see Voyager. You saw Galactica. So it's clearly, Galactica was his answer to Star Trek and what he wanted to do on Voyager but wasn't able to do on Voyager, and it's fine because he got to do it in his own show and he didn't have to answer anybody because he was a showrunner. So it was it all worked out. It worked
and do
out
it successfully.
Well, and he got to pull on the military background from his father, and he really got to lean into that heavily, which, Star Trek, you talk about the ranks and all that, but it really isn't about that at the end of the day, where Battlestar Galactica was absolutely about that, the life of a military folk. So, yeah. Well, with that said, there's one really important thing that we have to talk about, and we want to talk about this with you because actually before you got on, we all three sat and watched together. It is a movie you directed.
You watched it together?
Yes, we did.
All three watched it.
Okay.
Right before you got here.
This morning.
We watched it before you got
here. This morning. Okay.
Well, for us, it was like 10:30. So
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Best Christmas movies ever. We sat down and we got to watch it, and we have some opinions, and we got to talk.
Oh boy, they got opinions.
No, it's this guy and Die Hard.
We got to have a talk about this. So.
Bill doesn't think Die Hard's a Christmas movie?
I don't think Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And I love Die Hard. It's one of my favorite movies.
Mark.
It is not a Christmas movie. And the reason why I don't think it's a Christmas movie.
No one cares.
Is because, stop it now. The reason
I'm asking him. I want to hear what he says. He's wrong, but I want to hear what he says.
The reason I don't think it's a Christmas movie, and I think somebody even said this in your movie, if you take Die Hard out of Christmas and put it any other time of the year, it works great. They could have been there for a retirement party. They could have been there for a 4th of July party, or, just because like as a employee fun day or something, it did not have to be Christmas. So that's why I say it's not a Christmas movie. I saw something online where they said it's a Harry Potter movie because they're running around a tower avoiding Alan Rickman. And I think that it's more of a Harry Potter movie than a Christmas movie. And it's not a Harry Potter movie either. So no, I don't think.
Did you watch the movie?
I
think we settled the debate. I can't believe you're going back on that.
Okay. Yeah.
Would you like to care to take this one that Christmas is interweaved throughout the entire movie where you need some of those plot points about Christmas for the movie to work?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? Let's tell everybody who's listening who wants to, you have to watch and make the decision for yourself. But I that's one of the most fun, the fun, it's not in the documentary, but after we interviewed D'Souza, who wrote Die Hard, we answered it definitively, Bill. I said, okay. I said, so Steve, is Die Hard 2 a Christmas movie? And then that started off a whole another conversation, which we did not put in the movie.
I appreciate the little bit of debate that was in the movie, though.
Yeah,
I appreciated that.
And I appreciate everyone's opinion, but this is the hill I am willing to die on. Die Hard was not a Christmas movie.
Yeah. You know what? Mick Foley was one of my idols. And then
not anymore.
Yeah, he had to go and but I'm not going to spoil it for the people who need to watch. But you got to hear what Mick Foley has to say. It's very disappointing.
I've always liked Mick. I'm going to go back and watch that Hell in a Cell match again.
I remember I kept getting notes originally because on the network it was like, oh, well, maybe you could put this earlier because everybody No, it's like you have to lead up to this
100%.
conversation. You can't start with is Die Hard a Christmas movie? You got to build to it.
And this is
the eternal question.
Right. And this has been I think this has kind of developed over like the last decade, right?
Yeah, I think so.
This wasn't an argument with Die Hard for the first, 20 years the movie was out. This is a newer thing.
What surprised me is I knew Die Hard came out during the summer because, of course, I saw it in the theater. What I didn't realize was like Miracle on 34th Street came out during the summer.
I thought that was fascinating. I had no idea either.
Yeah, and the fact that, when you watch the whole trailer, they don't even mention Santa Claus or Christmas. You would know it was a Christmas movie. Yeah. Like probably the greatest Christmas movie of all time, at least in my mind. And they don't even mention Christmas, and they don't even, mention Santa. And of course, Ed Gwynn wins an Oscar for playing Best Supporting Actor for playing Santa Claus. The only actor who played Santa Claus who got an Oscar. And it's just crazy. You guys must have liked it. A lot of Star Trek people in it.
Oh yeah,
there was a ton. Do you film a lot of that when you were at cons?
Some of them because we have great relationships. I did get, part of a couple of people because we filmed all over. We filmed in LA, we filmed in New York, and then we did film it at a con or two too.
I kind of wondered that because when you had Foley in there and then you had Matt Hardy and
the same
day.
They were the same day. They were the same day.
Yeah.
We got Matt Foley and we got Mick Foley and Matt Hardy.
Yeah.
And they're huge Star Trek. They're huge Christmas guys.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, because it was all about people who had an attachment to Christmas.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, and we ended up not using it. I'm not sure why, but it was so great. Barry Bostwick hates Christmas.
Oh,
and originally,
really?
I think it opened at the end. Everybody's talking about how Christmas means so much to them at the end. Because I hate Christmas. He was like the Grinch. Yeah, I hate Christmas. I always will hate Christmas. And it was just so great. But it finally became this whole thing about celebrating Christmas and celebrating Christmas movies, and it just didn't feel right to include it. But it was pretty funny.
I hear.
Could have been after credits.
Trailers.
There you go. Yeah, credit tease or whatever. So what was your driving force behind wanting to make this movie? Obviously, you have a passion for Christmas movies. That's clearly there, right?
No, well, I'll tell you how this happened. It was a little more mercenary than that, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
We'd done 1982, the greatest geek year ever documentary, and it done very well for CW. And we were talking to them about doing other stuff. And I think it was my co-producer, Tom Vitale, who had said, we gave them sort of we talked about a couple of things and mentioned the Christmas movie one. And they loved that because it's very programmable to show it during Christmas. In fact, they're showing it again in December, so people who want to watch it, can watch it on the CW this December. And they got really excited about it. And so we did the version for CW, which premiered last year, which turned out great. But there was a lot I had to leave out for the time slot, and just because of certain things that, maybe deeper dive into certain older movies they didn't want to have on this, the network. Yeah. So we did an extended cut for the home video version, which is the version you watched.
Okay.
And I was able to put back in a lot of stuff that I had cut for the network.
Okay.
So, I'm a huge fan of Christmas movies, but it didn't start like, oh, I want to make a movie about Christmas movies.
Okay.
Maybe, do you want to make a movie about Christmas movies? Like, yeah, that'd be fun.
Sure.
And, ended up going and doing, some research too, and learning a lot. And then we had, a couple of experts like Alonzo and, who were so who had such great stories. It's like Star Trek, there's very rarely anyone can tell me anything I don't already know about Star Trek, right? But with Christmas movies, it was interesting because I got to be a little bit of a sponge. I learned a lot, in the process of making that movie and in researching that movie as well. So, but I'm very fond of it because it's fun, it's quick, it's informative, but it never sort of slows down to sort of lecture you.
It doesn't outstay its welcome at all.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not it's not too long. It's funny because like the 1982 movie is something like 3 hours, and it was 4 episodes on the CW. I think the movie version is like 3 hours, and it doesn't. It could be another 3 hours. Like there's all these movies we didn't get into, or I wish we could have gotten into more. Whereas with Christmas, like, there's certain things maybe that certain movies surviving Christmas, and a couple of things that we don't really. And I don't feel like we're missing anything crucial. Like, I think we covered everything. I'm like, I feel
even snuck in Generations, which I apprecied.
Yeah, we had to, right?
Was that yours? Was that your, like, I got to get this in there? Or was that?
Yeah, well, that was, yeah. I mean, it was me. And then also Scott Mance, who's a producer on it. He's a huge Star Trek fan as well. And, between the two of us, there was no way we weren't going to mention Generations. I mean, I don't know if he dislikes Generations as intensely as I do, but
amen, brother. Yes.
But, look, we did. I hate Generations.
I hate Generations.
I've always hated
my
Generations.
least favorite Star Trek.
The least favorite?
Your least favorite, really?
Least.
I don't hate it that much.
No. What's the fifth one for the search?
Final Frontier.
Frontier. I was going to say the Search for God. The Final Frontier. It was even better than or worse than
that. No.
Well, I mean, because you have the one line by Kirk in Star Trek V. Why does God need a starship? Right.
That's
like
classic.
that alone saves the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, I don't even know why you're even talking about this. Nemesis is the worst Star Trek movie.
Oh.
Star Trek V isn't even close to. I mean, Star Trek V it gets a bad rap because the Brand Farron visual effects are
terrible.
Are embarrassingly amateurish. Yeah. We did, I don't know, it was probably about a year ago, a live conversation with Bill to Star Trek V, where we did live commentary, running commentary during the movie
with him,
Star Trek V with Shatner, and it was phenomenal. Wow. And it was the most honest he's ever been about the movie. And there are so many things that we're working to as a disadvantage. The writer's strike, the fact that, Harv Bennett, as Bill told, it was like a mean drunk after 2 p.m. That he didn't get to pick his keys. He was really put in a box. And at the end of the day, it's what you said, Nick. It's that you have these brilliant scenes like Share Your Pain, and the relationship between the Kirk, Spock, and McCoy troika that are so wonderful that despite all its flaws, there are some really special moments in that film that rise to the top despite whatever its flaws are.
Yeah, it's true, because the character moments are key in that movie. Especially, I don't mind the row your boat scene. Like, a lot of people kind of give that one trash, but
I thought it was a good scene.
It's the Trinity that really works in that movie.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the same reason why on the original, no matter how bad an episode can be in some cases, you have Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, which elevate every episode. Sure. Other than the alternative factor, every episode works to varying degree because the three of them are so great together. And Star Trek V, you have the three of them, and the problem with Generations is you have nothing.
No,
you have missed opportunity.
You missed out. Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you
and I just the way I would defend Bill on Star Trek V, I defend Generations in the sense that this was the first Star Trek movie. The studio was worried that it was going to work. They had a laundry list of things they wanted, and it was sort of built by committee. And it's like a robot, and so like you have all these scenes. You have a villain that they're who's trying to be Khan, and you have time travel, which is trying to be Star Trek 4. It's just like all these things that the studio gave them that they had to do, and as a result, nobody. It's not telling a coherent story, and it also, you have people like with the best of intentions like Jerry Taylor who read the script and there's this great action scene that they had at the top of the thing, and she's, oh no, Star Trek isn't about action, you should do a character scene. So they replaced this great action scene where they fight the Romulans at the top of the movie with that stupid thing on the boat. And it's just like, it's so many bad decisions in that. And of course you have Shatner and Captain Kirk cooking eggs and hanging out in a cabin in the woods, and it's just like so many missed opportunities. It's the most frustrating Star Trek movie because like you get to see Picard and Kirk together for like 12 seconds, and it's ridiculous, and they're all fighting on a jungle gym at the end out in the desert to get to the launcher. I mean, very frustrating.
Cinematography was beautiful though.
Yeah, John Alonzo did Chinatown. I completely agree. I love the look of it. I know a lot of people don't
Score
think
is amazing
it's over stylized, but I love the look of the movie. But it's not a good film, and it's very frustrating for Star Trek fans. I mean, something like as simple as when he's staying in the Nexus because of Antonia. Why that wasn't
Carol Marcus?
Well, yeah, maybe, but Joan Collins. Why it wasn't?
Oh, true.
Edith Keeler.
Yeah.
I've talked to them about that, and there's like, well, the studio didn't want the audience to have to come in knowing something, but all you got to know was this is somebody he loved and lost.
Yeah.
You don't have to have known City on the Edge of Forever to appreciate it, and it would have meant so much more than some woman we've never met before.
Gosh,
I never thought about it.
That would have been a good beat right there.
One of my big problems with that movie is like they could have went back to any time. Why did they go back to right before he picked up Thorin and just threw him in the brig? That's what they should have done.
Go back 2 weeks. It's like, why do you put a ticking clock on it? Because the movie has to have a ticking clock. But there's no reason for it. Come back before Sauron. It's so stupid.
Yeah. I think one of my greatest problems with it is very similar to what I struggled with The Last Jedi. And I like The Last Jedi as a movie. I'm a Star Wars guy. I didn't like what they did with Luke Skywalker, just very similar to what I didn't like what they did with Captain Kirk. Like, those are both characters who don't quit and give up and just say, screw everything, I'm going to stay here. I know grief does some crazy things to us as well, but they're the people who would have pushed through it. So like, it's the same reason why I struggle with Generations, same reason why I struggled with that one. I have a hard time when characters do something out of character like that.
Yeah, see, I like The Last Jedi, but I my problems with it are all the Canto Bite stuff, the B story. I hate all that stuff.
Yeah,
I actually love the Luke Skywalker stuff, but and also I don't like the we're tracking them through hyperspace and we're going on a slow speed chase for half the movie, but I love the look of that movie. There's a lot I like about it. I think my favorite of the sequels.
Well, and that's the thing though, like that's probably my favorite, even though I struggled with it because they took a shot at something. They tried something new and different. And look, if you look at um the first one back, 7 and 9, they're both basically copy and paste movies. And it's really unfortunate. And Ryan Johnson tried something different. To me, it didn't stick, but there's a lot of people like you, Mark, who it did stick the landing to an extent, and it worked for them.
Speaking of JJ and the Star Wars movies, what do you guys think about the end of the Kelvin universe?
I like the cast a lot. I love the cast. I think they casted those movies pretty well. So it's kind of sad to see them. Carl Urban as McCoy was
underutilized.
Underutilized.
The secret weapon.
Special. Whatever term you want to use.
Make him the star. Like the star of the movie's true.
And
they could have done anything one. It's a universe.
I'm torn because I liked Beyond. I liked Into Darkness a little less than everything else. And 2009 was a lot of fun. Like it wasn't so much a Star Trek movie per se, but it was still very good. Cast just worked in those movies. So I'm curious as to what we're going to be seeing. Obviously, they hired the 2 new writers.
Yeah.
Fine
and Daly.
It's not attached, which I don't know what that means yet. So it kind of, as a longtime Trekker, you kind of go, okay, what's that mean?
Well, and this all hinges on the sale of Paramount too, right? I mean,
no, it's done. It doesn't hinge on anything.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is why they hired them. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Well, Skydance and David Ellison owns Paramount now, and so basically, Star Trek is an important franchise for them. Yeah. So Kelvin Universe is done, and they hired Goldfine and John Francis Daly to develop this new script, which will be the new movie franchise going forward. Yeah. Which I'm very encouraged by because they did a movie called Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, which is a lot of fun.
So good, a lot of fun with Chris Pine, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think, and they did start Spider-Man: Homecoming, so I'm very excited about that. And of course, then the TV franchise will be going in a new direction as well, but that hasn't been announced, and that's also very exciting. So. It's interesting because David Ellison's a big Star Trek fan, so hopefully they're going to be doing some great things for the franchise going forward. It's just a shame that none of this is going to hit in time for the 60th, so it'll be another anniversary that kind of goes
where it's blown
under the radar.
You'd think Paramount would just celebrate that day, and they failed at it for years and years and years.
They did good years ago when they announced, Lower Decks and all, Strange New Worlds, and then they just kind of,
Lower Decks.
They're like, here's Section 31. No, thank you. Pass. He's not gonna say anything.
I know. No, I'm not. I'll be happy to see. You want me to go off on how bad that is? I mean, if you count that as a movie, forget Nemesis. Section 31 is worse.
I haven't seen Section 31 yet, but if you guys didn't trust my judgment when I said that Die Hard wasn't a...
Oh, no, I'd sooner agree with you on Die Hard than if you said the Section 31.
Not Section 31, but I like Nemesis.
Well, there,
really?
Whatever.
Yeah.
I
don't know. You're losing me here.
Well, he's fired actually, so nice knowing you. Yeah.
It's good. You got that Siskel and Ebert thing going. You never want to have people that agree.
You don't want to agree. You
need to have that conflict on the show and make it interesting.
Section 31. I think I'm the only one that's watched it.
You are
on this podcast, and
I watched parts of it.
I would like that time back.
Well, and I understand why it was made, right? They had Michelle Yeoh under contract. They had to make something that was originally a series.
Sam Richardson's awesome.
They had to do it. But again,
Sam Richardson's awesome. That was my hope for it.
Yeah,
I'm like, Sam Richardson's in it. It's going to be great, right?
Yeah.
And then he doesn't get to do anything, and he's not funny.
No, not at all.
Like, how do you make Sam Richardson not funny?
Yeah,
that's actually the most impressive thing is that they made him not funny.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, oh my God, he's so brilliant in Veep. He's so brilliant in the After Party. I mean, he's great in everything.
Yes, he is.
It's just like, damn, man, that thing. And you have Michelle Yeoh, who is great in everything but Star Trek.
Yeah.
She was great in she was in one episode of Discovery, right?
She was in a bunch. There's a bunch of episodes of Discovery. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, as the original captain, I'm going back to not the
Empress.
I don't care about the Empress part of it, but
yeah, she's good in the pilot.
I never care for her performance as Empress Giorgio either. I liked her a lot better as Captain Giorgio, but she was like she was trying to ham it up, to be a good bad guy, and it didn't work.
It didn't work.
Which one is your favorite?
Phil, you're back on the payroll.
There you go.
Got my job back.
What is your favorite Star Trek movie since we talked about?
And why is it Star Trek 6?
Yeah,
no, I'm kidding.
No, it's not Star Trek 6. I do like Star Trek 6 quite a bit. Unlike, see, that's on our podcast. It's like me and Ashley are big fans of Star Trek 6. Darren hates Star Trek 6.
Hates it?
But yeah, he dislikes it.
Oh man.
Hate's too strong a word.
Yeah.
Leads to the dark side. Hate is reserved for other things in the Star Trek universe. Not
That's
Star
true.
Trek 6. But what's my favorite Star Trek movie? It depends what day you ask me.
That's fair.
It's probably Khan, but I do love the motion picture.
Okay.
It's one or two or one, probably Khan.
Yeah.
I just admire so much of what one tried to do, and I admire the fact that it's a movie, that it's cinematic, that it's big,
It's a film.
and it has scope, and it feels like there are people on the Enterprise, and it's expensive, and
Yeah.
just it feels like there's a whole universe. It doesn't feel like we shot a bunch of 10 people on the Enterprise like the other movies.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
That's a good point.
but yeah, but two, I would have to say two. I do really like 6. I respect 5, as a flawed, film. 4 is super entertaining. I like First Contact a lot. Yeah, that's about it.
All right. I have one last question for you, and it's completely off topic of Star Trek. Okay. And this is appealing to the writer nature of you. You can write on any series that's either current or within the past 10 years. It would be your dream series to write on. What show would you pick?
What show would I pick to write on?
Yeah.
I would have to go with the original series.
Oh,
No,
nice.
no. I didn't, Mark. You
Oh,
didn't.
in the last 10 years. Oh, last 10 years.
Yeah.
You tried to cheat. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah. Oh, last 10 years. I would accuse myself from this.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Friends who've worked on all of them.
That's
pretty
fair.
much.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll recuse myself.
All right. All right. all right.
Plus I also, my grandma used to say, if you can't say something nice about somebody.
Oh,
Oh.
you know what though? Well, like I wasn't even thinking necessarily Trek. I was thinking like other series out there.
Oh,
that's
oh.
a good like for
Anything. Oh, Mad Men.
Yeah, anything like shoot, Shrinking on Apple TV, right?
Yeah,
Like,
probably Mad Men. Probably Mad Men.
Yeah,
Or Battlestar Galactica.
There you-
Yeah.
I thought you're playing to the audience
There
here.
you go.
No, and that's legit. That's
would've been
legit.
fun.
By the way, I got to tell you, since you're a Kardashian, since you keep up with the Kardashians, I'll tell you a funny story. So, the last couple of years we've been doing the Treksperts stage at Star Trek Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
So we produce 4 days of programming, and it's been great. But so my son, who had watched Star Trek and liked it, decided he needed to prepare the first year we did it. So he marathoned. He did TOS and then TNG and then Deep Space Nine and Voyager. He got to Enterprise. He finally had to take a break. But he when he was doing TNG, he was watching an air date order, so he's alternating with Deep Space Nine. So he gets to, because he was watching air date order, which is an interesting way to watch it, and actually it actually bore rich rewards in terms of sort of crossovers. But the reason I'm telling you this story is it's the first episode with Damar. Remember, he had like one line.
Yep.
And I said to him, Damar is going to become one of your favorite characters.
Like, yeah.
He's like, what are you talking about? This guy who walks around next to Ducat and has like one line. I said, trust me,
Yeah.
Damar is going to become one of your favorite characters. And he goes, Dad, give me a break. So flash forward to, I don't know, a month later when he was finishing Deep Space Nine. He's like, my favorite character is? I said, no. He goes, Damar.
Yeah. What happened?
He goes, you were right. He said, I can't believe it. He says, I can't believe it. But you're right. He's so great. Resist today, resist tomorrow.
My love for Star Trek Deep Space Nine goes so deep. I just adore that series so much.
Yeah,
I love Deep Space Nine so much, other than the finale.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
Agreed.
I like the finale of DS9. I thought it fairly minus. Oh, the only thing I don't like is Cisco leaving.
That's the part that ruins
Yeah,
the finale for me.
especially knowing how important it was for Avery Brooks to show a strong relationship with his son, and the whole idea of a black father abandoning his son, and that really bugged Avery Brooks. And
they changed the final script because of that. Because originally they were going to say he was going to say he's never coming back, and because of that,
He said, I will come back.
I'll come back, just don't know when.
But here's the thing. If time isn't linear, couldn't he literally just disappear and
spend an eternity? It's sort of like the Nexus, right? He could spend years in there and it'd be back and no time has passed.
Like, guys, I was gone for 1 billion years. You just don't know.
My problem with that is not the first hour is great because it resolves the war arc.
Yeah.
But the second hour with the paw race, that whole Ducat arc, that last season is not good, and the paw race are awful. And then Strange New Worlds is doubling down on the paw race. They're not called the paw race, but basically the paw race.
Yeah.
And I just hate the paw race. It's not a Star Trekian concept to me. I think the execution was terrible. And when it ends with the green screen of like Cisco and Ducat falling into a molten lava pit, I'm just like, oh my God. I mean, and I was so disappointed because Deep Space Nine could do no wrong. And it's fine because, you're entitled to just because they didn't completely stick the landing. I mean, the show is, pretty much as good as it's up there with as good as Star Trek gets. So, I just that was disappointing for me. But I love Deep Space Nine, and my son loves Damar now too.
Nice.
Right. we made the mistake actually where we were talking with Ronald D. Moore one time, and we were talking about O'Brien, and we made the mistake of calling O'Brien a racist on there, and I don't think Ronald liked that we called him a racist because like he's constantly calling the Cardassians spoonheads. He never has anything kind to say to them, right? So we're like O'Brien kind of serves as like the everyday working man who's like a good man, but he's secretly got a little bit of a racist bone to him. I don't think Ronald Moore.
Well, it's xenophobic. It's not really racist.
There you go. That's fair.
Isn't xenophobic
and trauma from the war?
Xenophobia is fear of other races.
Fear of other races.
Racism,
and trauma from the war. Quite honestly,
I mean, trauma.
Well, that's the thing. He has terrible trauma from the war, and
he's always
they committed incredible atrocities during the war, and so you could see why he would feel that way. It's not because they look and act different. It's because of their actions. So I'm not condoning it, but I don't really see that necessarily as racism as much as it's Kirk in Star Trek 6. I've always hated Klingons and I always will because they killed his son. So it's like a personal trauma that leads to this kind of, but then ultimately it's exercised by, from him. He realizes that the mistake for being that way. Right. And I mean, I could see why Ron bumped on that because I don't really see O'Brien as a hateful character, but he also is the closest to humanity today of all those characters.
That's kind of the way I thought about it too, and it's not to knock the character of O'Brien because you get why he is the way he is. Kind of like Bones too, actually, with Vulcans. He doesn't like Vulcans.
You're just sarcastic.
But see, that's the same thing. It's like. And we just talked about this with the way he would treat, like Zahn in Phase 2 had that happen, who was the Spock replacement, that everybody was kind of racist to Zahn, and it was McCoy who would be defensive about him. But, the reason that McCoy could pull that off with Spock was he could take it. It was his way of saying, I love you. To Spock, So I don't think it applied to Ray. Look at the respect he treats T'Pau in Amok Time. So it wasn't all Vulcans; it was specifically Spock, and he was chiding him on his lack of emotions because he knew he had emotions. So it was. So I not to. That's just my perspective on it, but
no, you can yell at him. We like yelling at him.
To be the contrarian. It's what I do.
I saw recently on your podcast that you just had a Star Trek Phase 2, a couple episodes, handful.
Yeah,
I fully intend on watching that because I'm fascinated by that whole production time frame.
Yeah,
and we did in Vegas this year. We did Trek's Not Taken, which was so each year we have a theme, so we try and do a couple panels. So this year we did Trek's Not Taken. So we had Phase 2. And we had David Gautreaux, who was going to play Zahn, and John Poville, who was the story editor, and Michelle Billy Poville, who was the assistant to Harold Livingston, and Bob Goodwin. And then we did Star Trek: The Beginning, and we did Starfleet Academy, the Academy years. So that was really great. And then we did a staged reading of War of the Worlds. But, in War of the Worlds, they break away to sort of like this Lawrence Welk type show before the alien show. So instead, we had them break away to episodes of Star Trek Phase 2 and had actually David Gautreaux reading Zahn, which was and it was extraordinary because it was the first time anybody had ever seen David Gautreaux perform.
That's fantastic.
Zahn. It was really, really cool. Really cool. I mean, we've had so much fun doing every year I say, okay, this is the last year we're doing this, but it's a lot of work. And then, Gary and Adam come back and say, hey, we really like to have you guys come back and do this. And it's like,
nice.
Okay, fine. Damn, one more year. We'll do it one more year. So
kind of, I want to ask questions, going to parlay back into the documentary. So you've written a lot of different things, documentaries, comic books, TV, movies. How do you approach them differently? Because I'm fascinated with the writing process, the whole production process that goes into that. And how do you look at it? We do stupid little skits on our side here that we have fun with, but I love the writing process. So I just kind of get your input into that. Like when you go into a comic book versus a movie versus a documentary, how do you approach those?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't approach them all that differently. I will say that when I was doing the Deep Space Nine comics back in the day from Malibu, and that was the first time I was writing for comics, I was kind of like, how is it different to write a comic book than a TV episode? And, the challenge is because obviously comic books do action really well, but the dialogue is more limited, and Star Trek is, as Nick Meyer once said, Star Trek is a radio show, not a TV, not a movie, because it's dialogue driven. So how do you sort of balance that? And so that was a challenge, but I really enjoyed doing the Deep Space Nine comics. And, one was kind of the Diary of Anne Frank on the space station. One was kind of the Fountainhead, which was Deep Space Nine Zero, which was about the building of Terok Nor. And then, then later on, it became, I started doing more epic kind of movie type plots, but it was really interesting. So I think you really just have to look at what you're writing it for. I mean, the documentary, I tend to do a lot of research and pre-plan, knowing sort of the structure, the armature of what I'm doing, so that I don't waste time trying to find it in the edit, like trying to just interview a bunch of people that I don't include. Yeah. And then TV, it's different. When I'm writing on my own, sometimes I won't outline. But generally, in television, you have to, because the network has to approve, your log line has to approve the outline. So that's different. So then I have to kind of be more slavish in terms of that. So it really varies depending on what I'm working on at the time, and how much time I have and how much I know what I want to do. So, sometimes I'm just sort of, trying to pull things out of the air, and then that's just more hoping that, there's some value to what you're doing, that the idea holds up.
Yeah. Yeah. Like when you went to the Christmas movies ever, you have to find a voice for that documentary. And I can imagine, for me, like thinking about it as we were watching it upstairs, finding that voice has got to be, what story do you want to tell in the long run? It's still a documentary, and you want to tell how it makes people feel. Like, I just want curious, does that come early or later in the process?
Yeah, that came early, with the Christmas documentary. I knew I wanted to have the feeling of Christmas. Like, I didn't want it, like 1982, to get too scholarly. I felt it was all about the emotions of Christmas and what they mean to you. It's very nostalgic, A lot of it's wrapped up in the Christmas movies we watched with our families on Christmas. And it's funny because obviously the two of the three producers are Jewish, me and Scott. So, but yet Christmas is an important holiday to me, and Christmas movies are an important holiday to me. And but it is very wrapped up in nostalgia, and I wanted to convey that in the documentary. It's about memories. So it's less about how they made these movies, and I had a ton of stuff on that. And definitely on the network version, there's a lot less of it, but even in my extended edition, we talk a little bit, but it's less about the making of than it's about how they made us feel. Yeah. And I that was conscious with, and I was really gratified because I was surprised. I thought this was a confection. And I didn't think it was going to, I thought people would like it, but I didn't think it would get particularly like great reviews. And the reviews were like amazingly positive. And it was very gratifying that people really got it and liked it as much as they did. Because, I've had stuff that I think are great that haven't gotten as good reviews. And I've had stuff that are fucking terrible that got terrible reviews. But this was, really, gratifying. But a lot of thought goes into that tone. 82 in a way also was sort of an elegy for a lost era, waiting online for films, not sure if you were going to get in, calling up the theater and getting an answering machine, what time the things was playing, so that kind of thing. The day Star Trek 2 opened on the same day as Poltergeist, and that's sort of like, what are you going to go see? And all that kind of stuff. So that was really also like an elegy for a lost age. But at the same time, we did really deep dives into the making of these movies,
Right.
which was really great. But there's so many of them, and we were also making the case that this was the greatest geek year ever, '82.
Yeah.
Blade Runner, Star Trek II, E.T., Poltergeist, Conan, The Thing.
Was Indiana Jones on there?
No, that was '81. Was
81.
Okay.
Yeah, and just an extraordinary year for movies, and not just geek movies, but I mean, you get to stuff like Fast Times at Ridgemont High and The Verdict and Missing and Year Lived Dangerously, and it's just extraordinary. And but it's so interesting too, because you look at things like on the day that Blade Runner came out and was not, as we know, famously was not successful, came out the same day as The Thing, also now a classic, not as successful. What was the most successful of the three movies that opened that day? Megaforce, which no one talks about today.
I don't even know what that is.
A terrible
gosh,
movie.
yeah. I don't know what we're talking about.
And that did more money than Blade Runner or The Thing that opening weekend. But and so all very interesting. So definitely tonally different than '82, which, like I said, should have felt like a warm cup of Earl Grey hot.
Nice.
Just like nostalgic, kind of warm and fuzzy. And then '82 was a little different, like an elegy for a lost age. It felt where we'd go to the movies and there was this group, and then you'd come to school the next day and talk about, oh my God, did you see Star Trek II? And how amazing was that? So so yeah, going into the documentaries is different. I mean, I'm working on something now related to Star Trek, and a large part of it was, how do we cover this in a way that it hasn't been covered before?
Which is tough.
And approach it, differently. And I think I cracked the code on that. We'll see next year when it comes out.
Well, we'll be sure to review it and let you know.
Come back on for it comes out.
It's better than Nemesis.
Oh gosh.
I love set that bar low. I like that. I like it.
But it was kind of like, when 50 Year Mission came out, when my book, The 50 Year Mission, came out, because, it was very different than any other Star Trek book that came out. And the fact that it was an oral history. And, but that was one where I knew it was great and the reviews bared me out. It was like, I didn't care at that point because I knew the book was great. Yeah. And then the reviews were freaking amazing. Yeah. And the only thing that gets me nuts is when people say, edited by, as opposed to, because it's an oral history, and oral history is basically, all the interviews are our interviews, and then you have to basically create this fictional dinner party.
Right. Yeah.
Like
write it. Yeah.
500 people, and they're all talking, and you're taking all these disparate interviews and telling a story, because it's like Rashomon, particularly with Star Trek, everyone has different stories to tell. So the reason for the oral history is so you don't have to basically come down on anyone. You let everyone tell their story, and then the reader can decide what's true. But for us, I wasn't going to do it. Like, Ed was trying to convince me for the 50th to do this book, and I kept saying, no, it's too much work, and I don't really want to do it. I'm busy with TV shows and stuff. And then I read this book, I Want My MTV, which was an oral history of MTV. And then right after that, I read the history of Saturday Night Live. It was the oral history of Saturday Night Live. And I'm like, I called him. I said, listen, I think if we could do this as an oral history, I might be interested. I mean, if our agent could get the deal and we get offered X amount of money and all this, I said, then maybe I'd be interested. But I'm not saying I would do it, but maybe. So our agent went out with it, sold it like one day,
nice.
For a ton of money. And I was like, okay, well, I guess now I have to do it. Right. So, but then I got into it, and I just love writing that book. And it's so gratifying because you see a lot of people who work on the new Star Trek shows where they talk about like how important that book was. Like, I can't tell you how many people like, oh yeah, with this, we would read excerpts from this in the writer's room, or this, it's on the shelves at the office. Like, because a lot of them don't necessarily know all that much about Star Trek. So they would read our book to understand it, sort of give them an institutional memory about how Star Trek works. And even for the people who thought they knew a lot about Star Trek, they learned so much more from reading the 250-year mission books, which was only supposed to be one book, but it was so long they had to divide it into two books.
Right.
So anyway, that was our that was a very positive experience. I kind of felt it was my final word on Star Trek, but that has turned out not to
apparently
be.
not.
Yeah. You can't get away from it, huh?
Well, yeah, because then shortly thereafter we started the podcast, and then there's some other things that have come up, and it's just like, I can't get away from.
You're on year 5 of the podcast?
No, we're on year 8.
Year 8.
You're
Yeah.
8.
Well, I was gonna leave after 5.
Okay.
Because I said, what else can we say about this?
Yeah.
And I think it was around the time that Picard season 3 came out, which got me excited about Star Trek again.
Yeah.
And then also we were doing the stuff for Creation, and the 60th was coming, and I was getting a lot of letters, emails, and stuff from people saying don't go. And and my son was really getting into Star Trek, so
that
I
helps.
was like, so I'm like, I can't go.
See, we get letters telling us to stop.
Yeah, this
We just don't. We just enjoy talking.
Don't have
Star
Bill
Trek.
back anymore.
So I ended up staying, and I'm pretty much at this point committed to, like, I'm going to do definitely another year for the 60th, and I want to stay through the 40th and next gen.
Okay.
And then I think I'm done.
God,
Okay.
40 years of next gen. Wow.
crazy.
Yeah, and then because it's like there's only I mean,
It's only so much you can say.
I always joke about features, like learn all that is learnable, know all that's knowable. And we've tracked down so many people and, great people that we've talked to, and we've had so many fascinating conversations. But there just comes a point where there's like nothing left to say. But it could change, because if in 2027 there's a great new Star Trek show, or if a great new Star Trek movie, then maybe my opinion will change again. I don't know.
I don't know. Sometimes even the bad stuff is fun to talk about, right?
Right.
But then you have to be careful, because that's recent, and then those are colleagues, and you have to be careful about that.
Well, that's the thing. You know, when I back in the day, I did a magazine called Sci-Fi Universe, and it was the first movie to really call it like it was. It was the magazine for sci-fi fans with a life, and there was no internet at the time, so we could be very not obnoxious, but critical, and it would really piss people off. But it was like people loved it because we had an opinion. We weren't saying everything was great. But now with the internet, where everybody's clickbait and so negative, and I really make a point, at least on the podcast and publicly, to be positive about stuff. And if it's something I hate, then I just don't like to talk about it or get it, because there's probably somebody that loves it. I mean, even it's like we kicked Section 31 because that's kind of universally reviled. But like, I'm not going to get into a conversation about basically, Discovery if I can avoid it, because it's like, I'm not a fan, but there are people who love it, and good. Let them enjoy what they enjoy, and I don't need to piss on what they enjoy. So I try not to be like, we do have debates, which is different than being negative.
Sure.
Like we had the Star Trek 6 debate where we had Steve Asbell from president of 20th Century Fox debating Darren, and Ashley and I were sort of moderating, but that was because you had two sides. And then we did a Strange New Worlds episode with basically I didn't want to do one with us, because I didn't want something that was just shitting all over Strange New Worlds. So I got 3 people who love Strange New Worlds. I had to moderate it, and I had to bite my tongue.
Oh, wow.
But it was great. I felt like that was the way to cover it. Find people who love it and talk about why they love it, rather than a bunch of guys talking about why they don't like it, which I didn't think was very was really worthwhile.
I hear you. Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Well, Mark,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I was looking at the time, and we didn't want to keep you much longer, because we really appreciate.
Well, if you're going to keep telling me how great my documentary is,
I loved it.
Oh, it was so great.
Hey, you covered Violent Night, which was very important.
Oh my gosh, yeah, Violent Night was in there. That was good. Well,
that's written by a guy named Josh Miller, and Josh is really great. He did the Sonic the Hedgehog, huge horror guy. But it was funny because he was one of the first spin-offs of Treksperts, and 430 movie was when we were expanding the podcast. I had an idea for this best movies never made podcast, and I approached a guy, Steve Scarlatta, who'd been a PA for me on a TV series, because I knew he was like really an expert on this. And he said, "Oh my God, I'd love to do a podcast about best movies never made. Can I bring in my friend Josh Miller?" And that's how I met Josh, and Josh is fantastic, and I love that podcast. And I'm no longer really involved with it, but I wish them well, and it's fantastic, and I love those guys. So.
Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, and I wasn't disappointed, but I would have liked to seen Spirited talked about in your in the Christmas.
Yeah, I tried to avoid the streaming stuff.
Okay.
Because it was like, that's why we don't really get into Christmas Chronicles and Christmas
Evening
Story 2.
Christmas.
I saw that in movie theater though, and I know it
Was Spirited?
Apple.
Spirited?
Yeah, it was made for Apple, but it did go into the movie theater for like
but it was made for Apple.
Yeah,
and because that's a whole nother.
That makes sense.
You start going the streaming stuff and the Hallmark stuff. That's a whole nother.
I get it.
And since originally this was being made for the CW for the TV network, we kind of stayed away from the streaming stuff.
I understand that.
That's a threat to them. Yeah, I get that.
We didn't touch that much on the modern classics anyway. We kind of, yes, we talked about Violent Night. We talked about but we really talk about the legendary stuff, the Christmas Vacations, Miracle on 34th Street, It's a Wonderful Life, Die Hard, all those classic kind of Christmas movies.
One more time. What was that last one you said? Just asking for a friend.
Yeah. So,
I'm gonna get it up in the comments.
Yep.
But, no, they're probably gonna, probably be 50-50. It's always 50-50.
Probably.
I mean, when I do these panels, when we do best Christmas movies ever made panels, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, some people are like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad that you finally put this to rest," and other people are like, "You're crazy. Die Hard still, is not a Christmas movie." So it's like people. It's a very polarizing subject.
No, it sure is.
Which is great because that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
You want to get people, emotional. It's that time. It's the time for Miracle Steel.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, so I was very gratified by the response, and I'm glad that you guys liked it. And I just feel like it's a fun movie, and hopefully it calls attention to some movies that maybe people don't know, or there it is. Best Christmas movies
there
ever.
it is.
You can get it on Amazon or any, I think video on demand if you're not into physical media. And it's the CW is re-airing it in December. That's the original TV version, and then the home video version is expanded. It's not like all of a sudden extra nudity and violence. It's just more. It's just it's the extended edition is just more movies and more in depth about stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I like that it was on Blu-ray because I'm a physical media guy. He's not.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
me too.
Getting back
it's on Blu-ray, DVD, video on demand.
Me, my 4K. I'm a happy guy.
Yeah.
And for those who haven't watched 1982 Greatest Geek Year Ever, that also on Blu-ray and DVD, and
I'm gonna have to check that out.
I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
It's great, and there's a huge segment on Star Trek 2, obviously.
Okay.
But this is 3 hours of other movies.
Excellent.
Well, thank you again, Mark, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, pleasure. And you guys gonna be in Vegas this year?
We are.
Yeah, we'll be in Vegas. So we'll see you down there then.
Yeah, we
assuming you'll have a booth.
Well, we'll have the stage again.
The stage.
And we'll have we'll have a booth, and we'll have to talk before then and see see what we can do, because we're talking about possibly doing a panel on Star Trek podcasting this year. So we'll have to talk.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we will.
Yeah. It seems like a good idea for a panel, right?
I think there's so many different podcasts out there that cover the Star Trek. I think you could get a lot of points of view.
The Duras sisters is a big one now.
Delta Flyers.
Well, I mean,
I know.
Decon Chamber.
I'm thinking like I'm thinking like Star Trek fans who did it. For a while there, Discovery had one. They had the Black Pod Alert, I think is what they called it. Yep, Black Pod Alert. So there was a couple good ones out there for sure.
Yeah, the theme of this year's we're going to do, like last year was Trek's Not Taken. This year will be endings and beginnings. Mm-hmm. So since the 60th, we're going to talk about a lot of premieres, finales, things like that. And I can tell you, even though it's 8 months away, we already have some of our programming. It's going to be pretty freaking great.
Yeah.
I'm your guy for Emissary because I can't say enough good things about that. When I was a kid, I watched that and I was like, okay. And then I watched it for this podcast and it just spoke to me.
Emissary is great.
Yeah, and the Visitor for you too.
Yeah,
the Visitor's up there for you. Even though
we did a great panel on the Visitor last year. We had Sirach and David Livingston who directed it, and Michael Taylor who wrote it, and it was the anniversary of the Visitor, and that was a great panel.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
We did. Yeah, but apparently the ticket sales are robust this year, from what I hear, for the 60th. So
that's the thing we're talking about too. We're like, we haven't booked officially our hotel and everything. I'm like, we need to do that.
Yeah,
you should get on that. I mean, because you think it's like 8 months away or 9 months away at this point.
It comes up quick,
and it's like, who needs to worry about it? But it's like, that's why I wanted to get a jump on things early this year.
Yeah.
And because it's the 60th, and we want to really leave it all on the field, as they say in sports.
Yeah, Paramount won't do it, so let's do it ourselves.
Like last year, we did the Star Trek cruise for the first time, and that was like sold out within like a week. It was crazy, and that was a lot.
Are you doing it this year?
No, it's a little too pricey to do it 2
Right.
years in a row. And,
Well, Darren's going.
Yeah.
The member, the three of us and the
Yeah.
experts, and so Darren's going. I had no interest. It's like I don't want to go on a cruise, and it's a long time to be away from work. Ashley and I were both like, "There's no way if we're not getting paid that we're going to
Gotcha.
I get
on
that.
a cruise for a week and a half or whatever it is."
Yeah.
But Darren's like, "I'll go." And
No,
so
all the
Darren's
booze
going.
you
He'll
can
be our
drink.
representative on the cruise.
Yeah,
Very
we drank a lot of booze on that cruise. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet.
You know what
Booze
though?
cruise.
I will say, Mark, like I've been on a lot of cruises now, and there was nothing like the Star Trek cruise, just because everyone's there with a like-minded interest, the kindest souls in the world. Like usually cruises is a cesspool of people, and you're just throwing elbows trying to get through people.
Right.
No, everyone is kind and sweet. They don't. It's like 60.
Yeah, that I wouldn't like that.
Yeah, it was good. The only problem is like anytime you talk with someone, all they want to talk about is Star Trek. And
Star
you're like,
Trek,
I have other
yeah.
interests, you guys.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. That's really funny.
But it was a good time. We had a blast.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Who knows? Maybe 1 year I'll go, but I definitely, this was not for me. But Darren's going to go, and he'll represent, and he'll cover it and do whatever he's doing there.
Cool.
But
Cool.
So anyway, well, guys, thanks for having me. Good luck, continued
thanks,
success
Mark.
with the podcast.
Yes.
And I got to plug our podcast. Every
Absolutely.
Thursday. If you're not already listening. Inglorious Treksperts. It's funny because we just started going on YouTube. I don't know how to make the YouTube thing. We're huge podcast, the audio podcast, but I don't know how to make the YouTube thing more bigger, but we'll see one of these days.
Yeah.
How about the algorithm?
Yeah.
That's what I hear.
Yep.
And but you can listen to us every Thursday wherever you get your podcast. So
right.
thank you guys. And
Thank
I'll
you.
see you in Vegas
See you in Vegas.
If I'm not in Detroit, which I doubt I will be. I'll see you in Vegas in August. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care. Have a good rest of the day.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
And we're back.
Yay.
Wasn't that delightful?
It was amazing.
It was a
Wow.
blast.
He was such a nice guy.
It was, it's almost like we didn't record this all in one little bit, and we're just now getting done with the interview.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Wasn't it? It's an incredible thing.
The magic of television.
The magic of editing.
The magic of YouTube.
Yeah.
Ooh. So yes, it was wonderful to have him on the show, and what
Very
an
gracious.
exciting possible world we might be doing something at Star Trek Vegas.
I know.
Wow. I got to work that out though. He said Thursday night. I have a Foo Fighters concert on Thursday night.
I might have to fly solo, or Bill, I don't know if you're
Well,
interested.
it's far enough ahead in the future that I'm sure I could work it out.
So, I mean, we could figure it out.
Yes.
We could figure it out.
My wife takes maybe 2 trips without me every year. I was like, this is one of mine. I'm going to Star Trek Vegas.
So we also got to talk about booking that now.
Yeah, we got to get that booked sooner rather
Yes.
than later. Oh, dear.
Oh,
dear.
don't you know?
Don't you know? So
Don't
we'll get
you
that
know.
taken care of. But yeah, so we hope you enjoyed that interview. Mark was really gracious with his time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He I kept trying to end the interview for him.
He gave us a
to
hard
respect
stop.
his time. And he gave us a hard stop, and he kept on talking, and I really appreciate
Very gracious. Very, very,
because
very.
I want to be really respectful of their time,
Absolutely.
but I also want to be really selfish and be like, talk to us as long as you
I could
can.
talk to
Tell me
his
more.
knowledge of Star Trek.
He was
I could literally
fun.
talk to him for days.
He was fine.
And you could tell he loves Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Mark,
does.
if you want to help me out with Star Trek Jeopardy, let me know.
Well, and I love that question because the question I asked him about if you could write on any show, I was even thinking of Star Trek shows, and he's
Yeah.
like, "No, I recuse myself from that." I'm like, "No, I mean any show ever."
I'd like to write on Community.
Oh, Community, and he chose Battlestar Galactica.
Ugh.
Good choice.
I've never heard of it.
Great show.
Okay.
Join us next week as we start our Battlestar Galactica rewatch.
Or just watch the time we did it before.
We're gonna start again.
Okay.
Because we have
Yeah, 'cause
we
now
have
we have
Sean
me.
and Bill.
That's true.
Yeah.
We have Sean and Bill now. They haven't seen any of it.
I thought we liked them. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, it's exciting. So, but actually, in a truth fact here, we will not be here next week because next week is Thanksgiving.
Yep, here in the U.S.
So Thanksgiving weekend. So we're taking a week off. Then we got another 3 weeks on, I think, and then we're off through the new year.
Yep.
And then that's when we get back into season 6 of Star Trek. So
you will get a new Star Trek Jeopardy next Friday, though.
And that new Star Trek Jeopardy.
I guess
coming.
this Friday.
Hey, did you do the Star Trek Jeopardy? I'd be curious what your score would be.
I haven't done it yet.
You need to go on there.
See, I love it when our hosts don't watch it.
I mean, and here's the I'm off this week, so I'm going to watch some of this week.
To be fair, he's a newer host. He's got a lot. He's got a part of his contract was he had to listen to every single episode we've done.
Every one of
this
them.
point.
Yes.
And comment and like everyone and subscribe.
Exactly.
And if I do that, I get $5.
It's 501.
501. Oh.
Yeah.
Just so you know, you're clear. It's not per episode. It's just $5
Total.
What? I quit.
Okay. Because $5 per episode, that would be 250 episodes, 260 episodes. 260 times 5. Do the math. It's a lot of money.
Yeah,
a lot.
That's like $1,500, right?
I'll pay you in beer.
You know what? I will take beer.
There we go.
He does like beer.
There we go.
And you don't like beer, so you give him whatever beer you don't like.
Exactly.
You
I'm a liquor person.
Oh, okay. I'm not real big on liquor.
Okay, fair.
Candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker.
And Nick likes cocaine, apparently.
I did have like a really nice scotch like 3 or 4 years ago. I have a buddy who's into scotch. And
no one cares.
It was like this Irish scotch, not Scottish, Scottish scotch.
Still not caring.
And it stop it. And it was like $100 a bottle, and it's like real peaty, which is it's like smoky, and it was really good. It's like okay, I
do like peaty scotches.
Nice.
Yeah, I do absolutely. Speaking of peaty scotches, I got to go home and take a shower.
Yes, you do. What?
I don't know.
We apologize.
It's the end of the episode. It's the end of the episode. I got nothing more to say. Do you guys got anything more to say?
We'll see you when we get back.
I do know that scotch is not from Ireland. I misspoke.
Subscribe.
It's from Scotland.
It's from Scotland.
734.
Or else it would be called
Irish.
494-0980. Give us a call.
We love y'all.
Comment.
Thanks for keeping up with us.
Deuces. Peace.
Bye.
Bye, Felicia's.